Hey, Mike, this week on the show, we're doing Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah, I mean, what is that even? I mean, there's no Spike, there's no Angel, there's no Xander, there's no Willow, there's no Giles, there's no Sunnydale. What are we doing here?
We're not doing that Buffy the Vampire Slayer. We're doing the 1992 version.
What?
Exactly. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, please notice that exits are conveniently located at the front and rear of this auditorium. When leaving the theater, we suggest that the exit at the front of the auditorium will allow you easier access to the parking areas. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Mike Field.
I'm Mike Butler.
And you're listening to Forgotten Cinema. Each episode, we highlight a film that, for a variety of reasons, was forgotten by audiences, whether it be because a more popular movie was released at the same time, or the movie simply didn't catch on with an audience in its initial run. We'll discuss what we love about the movie, or perhaps don't love about it, but we'll always recommend you revisit it. If you enjoy Forgotten Cinema, we want to hear from you. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and of course, YouTube. We're available on all platforms with a backlog of over 275 episodes for your listening pleasure. What's up?
275 now.
I actually think we're close to 300.
Ooh.
But yeah, I went to 275. I think I've done the 275 before. You just keep going back to the 250. What's going on?
Oh, nothing much. You know, I'm just a regular Valley girl practicing my cheerleading when all of a sudden an old creepy guy comes out and tells me that I'm the chosen one and I have to go outside and kill vampires, even though all I want to do is move to Europe, marry Christian Slater, and die. I can't do that because I gotta fight Rutger Hauer and Pee Wee Herman and
Lothos, you mean?
I said what I said. And you know, dump my basketball boyfriend. I'll get cheated on by my basketball boyfriend and marry 90210.
That's right. We are doing the 1992 Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which I said in the last episode is kind of a semi prequel to the TV show that came out with starring Sarah Michelle Gellar, but it's not really, because I guess Whedon comes out and says, Joss Whedon, that is, comes out and says it's not canon. So you're not really supposed to, anything in the movie doesn't count, but the original script does count. And then he actually turned the original script into the comic called Origins.
This is getting further into the episode. We'll talk about this.
Right. So Buffy the Vampire Slayer has a runtime of 86 minutes, which we love. Rated PG-13, production budget of $7 million. The release date was Friday, July 31st, 1992. Opening weekend, it did $4.5 million. Domestic, $16.6 million. International, I don't know, about 1,000. And for a worldwide total of $16.6 million. Production company was Sandalwood Productions and Kazooie, or I think it's Kazooie, right? Is that how you say that?
Oh, is that how you say it? That's funny.
How are you saying it?
I wasn't saying it at all. I was just reading it. I wasn't even trying it.
Yeah, I think it's Kazooie.
That seems funny to me.
Kazooie Enterprises. I think whatever.
Kazooie Enterprises?
Well, how would you pronounce that? It's not. There's no A. Kazooie?
Kazooie? I don't know.
It's either or
Kazooie.
Kazooie? That was just Kazooie Productions. Yeah. Enterprises.
I mean, Kazooie just reminds me of Banjo-Kazooie, so it's just kind of weird.
Sandalwood Productions is actually Dolly Parton's production company, for those who don't know. This movie was distributed by 20th Century Fox. So it came out on the 31st of July. So let's go back a week to the 24th of July, 1992. You had a wide release of Mo Money and Mom and Dad Save the World. Are you into those? You see those?
I know of Mom and Dad Save the World. I don't know if I've ever seen it.
Really? It's not that good. I mean, to each his own. The 31st this weekend, Buffy went up against a wide release of Death Becomes Her and Bebe's Kids, and then a limited release of Enchanted April. Obviously, Death Becomes Her was the big winner that weekend.
So far, that's what I know.
And then the week after, the 7th of August, you had a wide release of Unforgiven, a fantastic film, Three Ninjas, Raising Cain, and Whispers in the Dark. Unforgiven's obviously the big movie that year.
Three Ninjas.
Maybe that. Well, Three Ninjas did spawn a couple sequels, so Three Ninjas was busy. This movie was directed by Fran Rubel Kazooie. So there you go. I try to do your way now. She has done Tokyo Pop, and she was a producer on Orgasmo, written by Joss Whedon, of course, who has nominated for an Oscar for Toy Story. He also directed and wrote The Avengers. He did Titan AE, which is an episode we did in terms of script. He also wrote the script for Alien Resurrection, which is an episode we did for our lead-up series that should be out by now.
Yeah. Resurrection's out.
Cinematographer was James Heyman, who is more of an executive producer and director for NCIS New Orleans, Joan of Arcadia, and Judging Amy. Those are all TV shows. Composer was Carter Burwell, who's nominated for an Oscar for Carol, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, and The Banshees of Inisherin. Edited by Jill Savitt and Camilla Toniolo. Savitt has done Trigger Effect, which is an episode we did, Stir of Echoes, which was an episode we did, and some stuff for TV show Gilmore Girls.
Those are both like old school episodes.
Yeah. Stir of Echoes is season 1.
Season 1, Stir of Echoes, yeah.
Trigger Effect is like 4 or 5 maybe.
Yeah,
not
still
5.
early, but low, but early.
Toniolo has done Living in Oblivion, which is another episode we did, and I love that movie, and the TV show Palm Royale. Produced by Kaz Kazui, who is the husband of Fran Rubel, the director. He has done Last Life in the Universe and Angel. He was an executive producer on. They are actually an executive producers on Buffy and Angel because they just threw out the whole thing, including Howard Rosamund, who did Call Me by Your Name, and The Family Man as well. And guess what? That's an episode we did back in the day. I should probably just stop.
300 episodes. This
275.
There's going to be 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Oh, yes.
4 degrees of forgotten.
So our Buffy Summers in this film is not Sarah Michelle Gellar, but Kristy Swanson, who's in Flowers in the Attic, The Program, The Chase, which was an episode we did with The Pint for their Triple T. No, it was just, was it a special one or just, there was just a regular episode we did with them?
I think it was just a regular episode.
Right. And then she's also in Big Daddy. Donald Sutherland is Merrick from the Hunger Games series, Clute, MASH, and Ad Astra, which is a recent episode we did. Rucker Hauer as Lothos, the bad vampire. Donald Sutherland's Merrick is supposed to be like Giles from the Watcher. The Watcher from the show. So I said Rucker Hauer plays Lothos, the evil vampire from The Hitcher, Blade Runner, and Hobo with a Shotgun. Paul Reubens is Amelin. Is that how you say his name?
I think so, yeah.
Did they say it in the movie?
I don't think. If they say it, it's real quick.
Obviously, he's Pee Wee Herman. He's in Pee Wee's Big Adventure, Big Top Pee Wee, but he was also in a movie we did.
Mystery Men.
That's season 5 because that was an audience choice season.
Was that?
Yes.
Okay.
Luke Perry as Pike from Beverly Hills 90210, the TV show, obviously, the TV show Riverdale, and the movie 8 Seconds. And then David Arquette as Benny, who is Pike's buddy from the Scream series, Never Been Kissed, and Airheads. And then Hilary Swank is in there as Kimberly, the Academy Award winner. Hilary Swank, 2-time Academy Award winner. Do you know what movie she won for?
Probably $1 Million Baby.
Yes.
And I don't know the other one.
Boys Don't Cry.
Okay.
And she also is in the TV show Away, which you might like. It got canceled. It's only 1 season, so I apologize. But it's about a manned mission to Mars. And it's more
I think
dramatic.
I remember that. Yeah.
It's my wife and I were watching it. We really liked it. And then it got canceled. I was like, eh. And then you have like Michelle Abrams there as Jennifer, who is the other friend of Buffy, who ends up with her boyfriend. Stephen Root's in there as the principal. Gary Murray. Candy Clark is Buffy's mom from American Graffiti, which is what So
she got like special billing too. She's like,
because she was like, she's
the biggest.
Well,
Rutger Hauer.
She's an American Graffiti. She's from like, it's almost like now having somebody who you watched growing up in your movie kind of thing. Thomas Jane's in there for a hot second. Ben Affleck, of course. Seth Green is in there if you see him from the back.
Gets kicked in the back. Gets kicked in the face.
He says he's in it, but they cut his stuff out. That's the only part you see.
That's the only time you see him. Yeah, he's a vampire. Yeah.
All right, Mike. So that's pretty much the cast. It's pretty much the movie. I was kind of getting into a lot of the other stuff that you don't want me to get into. So why don't you kick us off with that stuff? With, I guess, maybe where this sits in terms of the universe compared to the TV show, maybe.
So the pilot episode of the show kind of explains what happened in the film. She kind of explains it to, I believe, Willow, and the principal explains it to her as well. Just kind of like gives her this big speech. I don't want you here because you burned down your school. You had a problem in the gymnasium, your prom, blah, blah, blah. So that comes from the original script because I guess Joss Whedon was very upset that his script was kind of rewritten, made to be more jokey. And originally, I guess more on par with how Buffy the TV show was, where there's humor in it, but it's still dark. He wanted something. He told Luke Perry that it was kind of like he wanted to do something like Near Dark was like kind of his inspiration. So when you look at the film, there are parts where you're just like, okay, she kind of mentions this, she kind of mentions that. Like she mentions that her watcher had died. She mentions that there was an issue in her gymnasium, but in the pilot episode, she says she burned it down, which was in the original Origins script, which I really want to read. It's a graphic novel?
A comic or graphic novel,
so
yeah.
I kind of want to see if I can find that.
I'm surprised you haven't gone on to the continuation of the last season of Buffy is in comics. I guess
they did a couple of seasons of Buffy.
Yeah.
I know they did a few seasons of Angel as well.
I mean, it's not, if that was in one big book,
a collection,
I might buy it. I might check it out. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, some of the stuff's kind of explained, but some of it's kind of brushed off. But you kind of get a good feel. Like it does work as the only kind of visual medium prequel you get to, like, hey, here's where Buffy ended up. They don't explain what happened to not Percy. Pike. They don't explain what happened to Pike or stuff like that. But you get a pretty decent feel for what happened and how Buffy was and how she kind of changed. And you do see, I think they did do a good job of explaining kind of how Buffy goes from stuck-up Valley Girl to...
You're talking in the movie or the show?
The movie. Okay, well, stuck-up Valley Girl to like the Buffy you see when the show begins. So I think they do a good job with that.
All right, well, let's get into the movie.
It's very different, but it's very different.
Oh, no, of course.
Yeah.
Let's get into the movie a little bit. And let's try not to compare it too much to the show because, the way the vampires die is different and all that stuff. So, what?
Vampires look... That's fine. Yeah, I got you.
No. I think the way they die in the TV show is so that you don't have to have the blood and you could just have it. They're supernatural because they just dissipate and stuff like that.
And you don't have to explain how people find bodies all over the place.
Right. So I think that was a smart choice to make.
Sure.
Obviously they didn't think about that in the movie.
No, I probably didn't have the budget for that.
I guess okay. So what of the characters? Let's go to the characters.
Right.
Did you like Kristy Swanson as Buffy's? Did you enjoy her performance as Buffy?
I did. At first, it was like,
It's
all
tough,
right,
'cause you
it's
keep
not
thinking,
Sarah Michelle Gellar,
yeah.
and I mean, she really owns that role, and she's really good. And I think both of us are really big fans of Buffy. So it's tough, but if you watch it subjectively, you try to push that aside. I do think she does a good job playing the Valley Girl and then kind of getting that responsibility pretty quick. I mean, she's only got an hour and 28 minutes to do all this too.
I will say that transition is fast in the movie.
It's fast, but she doesn't really have a choice, or they don't really have a choice to get her there.
Well, like I think my comment is they blow through Act 1 at the detriment of my believability of Buffy's training and accepting of her fate. Like, so they kind of like just go through Act 1 really fast. Yeah. And then it's like, and she's like, I'm no longer a Valley Girl or whatever. I'm no longer that vapid or whatever.
I think part of what helps that, though, is in this Buffy, and they kind of deal with it in the TV show, but again, we want to push that aside, is that she remembers everything from the other Slayers. Yeah. So knowing that's not a dream kind of puts that responsibility and those experiences on her. Mm-hmm. Whereas before, I did this crazy nightmares. Like, oh no, I was a slave. I was a barmaid. I did die 1,000 times. Kind of helps. I think that helps it along with the short runtime. But I do agree that it's very fast.
Yeah, because the opening, when the movie starts off, the prologue is fast. It's quick. It's like,
oh yeah, they start right off. I kind of like that.
I don't know. I mean, I think I'm asking for maybe just a little bit more breadth in terms of just a little bit more.
The movie's only an hour and 26 minutes.
No,
I think you can absolutely say, Can I get another at least 20 minutes?
I'm curious how much they rewrote and how much they changed while they were doing it. Were they cutting scenes? Did stuff get cut? Was stuff on the cutting room floor that, like maybe they're just trying to get through the film?
Who knows? I mean, I will say that. I mean, I know Joss Whedon goes, I just walked off. But it really seems like a lot of what he doesn't like about this film seems to have been like pre-planned. It's not like it seems like it wasn't tonally changed as they were filming. Maybe he just realized wasn't there for the discussions before the filming.
I feel like this is just a lesson in how Hollywood works. I mean, this is a script
you write something, but that's not necessarily what happens.
And you're the writer. At that point, your job is, I mean, yes, you would like the director and the producers. You're there on set to help you with stuff, but they're eventually going to make their own movie. So, they bought your script to make the script.
Well, let me ask you this, because you actually had a script that was purchased and made, and you weren't there for the filming.
Which one?
The baseball one.
Oh,
the cigarette smoking man was in.
Yeah.
How much did they change? Because you weren't even on set. So did they change it, or like? Granted, this is different people, a different situation.
They changed a little stuff here and there, but it wasn't. I mean, I didn't go back to the script and was like, oh my god, I can't believe
what did they
that.
Change?
Right, and even when we do stuff when I do stuff that I write. I change stuff while we're shooting because locations change, situations change.
You changed a whole giant chunk of Puzzle Maker Son because you couldn't get the location.
Right, yeah.
That ended up being one of the best episodes.
Yeah. So obviously they talk about when you do a film, you write it 3 times. When you write it, when you direct it, and then when you edit it. So it's kind of trying to find that story in those 3 moments, 3 productions. But yeah, so, I mean, I've never had something where it's been like, hey, thanks for the script. Peace out. We're going to do whatever we want now.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so.
But that almost seems like from what he says, and granted, we're just getting snippets.
Yeah.
It seems like he's like, oh, they really changed everything. Like you couldn't it looks like the writing's on the wall in terms of what they're changing. I mean, Lothos is so ridiculous. And Aemilian, although I think he's probably supposed to be, is also very ridiculous. Yeah. So it's like, or did you write him that way? And it's like, how different is it? Or was it a little bit more silly than we're led to believe?
Well, his biggest problem was with Sutherland. Like there's the
I saw that.
He has that comment where he says, let's see, I've got it here. So Sutherland rewrote most of his dialogue and scenes. And in Whedon's opinion, he thought the scenes were incomprehensible and that Whedon praised Sutherland's abilities as an actor, but then called his behavior, quote, rude. And he called him a dick. But like, so when you have a big time star like Donald Sutherland coming in and he's changing lines, it's nothing you're going to do about it. You can't do anything about it. And you're just the writer. You know what I mean?
Even the director and the producer. It's not like they've done a ton of films.
Right.
Like you're lucky you got them.
And they probably were like, yeah, go ahead. And I didn't have any issues with Donald Sutherland's lines. I thought his lines were fine. I think the Whedon writes a certain way, and Whedon obviously, because when you watch Buffy, the TV show, you can see those jokes and
it's snarky and sarcastic.
Right.
And yeah.
And I think like if you change stuff within the script, some of that stuff you keep in there kind of stands out. So like Pike has a lot of stuff in there that he's saying that is just falls flat because the rest of the movie isn't like that.
True. Yep.
You know, he's got jokes and lines and he's doing asides and stuff. And you're like, oh, okay. And it doesn't hit.
Buffy character in the whole film.
But he's not in the Buffy show.
Exactly.
Yeah. So his stuff and I think back to the line that everyone hates in X-Men because Whedon wrote that line about when Storm comes in. When she has that line in X-Men, she's like, you know what happens if somebody hit by lightning?
Right.
But I was watching something or reading something where Whedon wrote that, but he wrote that there was other stuff in the script that would lead up to that, kind of like referencing that, or like that kind of same joke. So when you remove that one joke just kind of falls flat. And what are you supposed to do there?
Right.
So I think with here, I think that's the case. So like a lot of the stuff, I don't have issues with the script or the movie because the movie is, it is what it is. And you know what you're going in, you know what you're getting going into it. If I have problems with this film, then I have problems with Night of the Comet or like, you know what I mean? Like stuff like that.
Right. So, which was an inspiration for Buffy.
Yes, which we talk about. Yeah. Night of the Comet was an episode we did for Forgotten Horror 6, Fear the Darkness. And, and we talk about a lot of that. We talk about Buffy the movie. So if you go back to listen to our Night of the Comet episode, we talk about this a little bit.
Right.
That was a big influence for this film. And also, I think Valley Girl was a big influence. No, was that
something
else?
Right? Night of the Comet and something else were big influences on this film.
But yeah, so it is what it is with this movie. You know what you're kind of getting into. I mean, I dig it, but yeah, it doesn't. Some stuff falls flat. Some stuff you're just like, all right. Like the action, the choreography, the fight choreography is okay. The action is okay. It's not.
There's some of the stuff she does, and the stunt woman or Kristy Swanson. I don't know.
I don't know. There's a Texas switch in the training. I wrote it down.
Yeah. It's pretty good. Some of her jump kicks. She does some of the jump kicks, which I thought were cool. And that's
where the Texas switch comes in. Which there's a scene when she's flipping and she's doing the cartwheels, and then it goes past like a pillar, and all of a sudden Kristy Swanson appears with a jump kick.
It's still a decent jump kick.
Oh yeah.
And she's definitely like. I will say, like, she looks like she could take on vampires as opposed to Sarah Michelle Gellar. But the whole point of Sarah Michelle Gellar's Buffy is, like, she's just super strong. Whereas I think this Buffy's more well-trained than strong.
They do reference that because when she throws the punch at Merrick, she's like, I didn't even chip a nail.
Yeah.
I think they kind of reference that a little bit.
She's definitely more, like, reactive, and then she's got, like, she's more athletic. Yeah. But I think Buffy's got a little bit more like just ridiculous strength going on. But I don't think the vampires are really showcased to be like Pike fights the vampires pretty well. But I don't think the vampires are a little stronger, but they're not quite as strong as the TV show either.
Is it? Am I wrong in thinking that the vampires have like soft flesh, that whole thing. Like they're easy to fight.
It seems like.
But isn't that from the show too?
Is it?
I don't know.
Some vampire stuff talks about how, they've got like cold blood. So it's like they're not as malleable, basically. Which kind of show like Amy Lynn's like arm just popping off so easy. It's kind of like, all right.
Yeah, I know. So what did you think of Paul Reubens as Emmeline?
It's so ridiculous. It's just so it's kind of dumb. He's got a couple of decent lines, and it's so bad. It's so bad that if it was less over the top, I would have hated it, but I love it. It was his death sequence. When he dies and he ad-libbed it, I was like, oh my God, this is so dumb. And he keeps going with it. I just started laughing. I was just like, all right. It goes on so long that it no longer becomes annoying. And it's just like, I love it. And when he kicks the wall 3 times and finally keels over, I was just like, that's great. That was gret.
The note was like, Paul Reubens ad-libbed his death scene. Yeah, no kidding.
I also like the note that he chose his beard and hair based on his mugshot from when he was arrested in the theater. Basically, the Death of Pee Wee Herman mugshot.
And they do the same. He uses the same look for his appearance in What We Do in the Shadows.
Yes, he got like the same wig.
Because he was like, I've never looked cooler than that mugshot.
Just such a ridiculous quote, but awesome.
I mean, you got to, accept, I guess, doesn't run from that incident.
Yeah, he just rolls with it, which is awesome.
Yeah. Did you mentioned Rutger Hauer and you mentioned Lothos. Did you like him? No, you didn't.
I didn't get him. I think if anything was cut out of Whedon's original script, it must have been Lothos, because I thought he was very poorly described and very poorly, like I didn't understand his end goal or his end game. Was it to
eat a Slayer?
Well, he's clearly eaten a Slayer, because the beginning, one of her dreams is that he eats one of the barmaid, the one that was a barmaid or whatever. So I gathered that he just keeps killing them, but he doesn't turn them.
So there was a moment in the movie where he's clearly like waiting. He's waiting for
her to be ready so that it's worth a fight.
So there's that scene where they go to, it looks like an abandoned or a closed up carnival shop where all the floats
it's all
are.
Parade floats. Right. Yeah. There's a sign that says what it's for.
And it says she's not ready. She's not ready. But then there's the next scene, or a couple scenes later, where Benny finds out that she's the Slayer.
She's a high school student at the...
that Benny finds out that, Buffy's the Slayer.
Buffy, yeah.
And then they go back to that scene and Lothos is like, all of a sudden, like, we found the Slayer. It's
now
like, wait a
she's
minute.
ready, yeah.
Why? Because I don't understand it seemed like I'm waiting for her to be ready. So that tells me like, okay, so she's the Slayer, to the point where, and then you discover she's the Slayer.
I think the whole point was discover where she lives and who she is.
Really?
That's what I think they were getting at. But again, it's like, it's almost cut. But I do agree that it's like 2 days later. How is she ready now where she wasn't ready when you hypnotized her?
Right.
If anything, she's less ready, because right after that, she kind of gives up and says, I don't want to do it anymore.
Right.
So she's less ready than she was.
And why don't they ever just want to turn a Slayer? Why is it always just to kill the Slayer? If you kill a Slayer, the next one comes.
Well, that's in Buffy.
Yeah.
Spike's whole thing was, I've already killed 2. I want to keep killing us, become the most badass vampire again.
Yeah.
But Lothos is very confusing. I don't understand what Lothos's end game is just to marry her, to turn her, to eat her.
Yeah.
They're not ready yet. Oh, you're mine. We're together. Like, I don't understand. It's both like kind of an infatuation and I want to kill her, or I want to turn her, and they don't do a good job explaining that.
And then there's some mystery behind Merrick when he's like, I should have gotten to you earlier. You would have learned more. When? Like, when? Like, how early do you need to get to her?
Well, in the TV show, it's when they're 16, whereas she's a senior. So the TV show also does de-age Buffy a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Because Buffy starts as a sophomore to give her more high school years.
Yeah, sure.
And this Buffy is close to graduating.
Yeah.
But I also thought it was interesting that in this Buffy universe, the Watcher is reborn with the Slayer.
So, yeah, he says he's reborn, that he's not immortal, but he's reborn and remembers everything.
And looks exactly the same. Whereas Buffy is actually different people each time.
Right. Okay.
But I guess that makes sense to train. If you had to train the Slayer, that works. But it also makes more sense that it's a whole council, because like, why do you know the rules?
Yeah.
Were you an angel? Well, she asked him. Doesn't she ask him if was an angel or something?
Oh, I don't even remember.
I think that might have been a throwaway line.
What about, okay, so we've been talking a lot about the vampire side of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. What about the Buffy side, where in terms of her friends, just that whole, bless you, just that whole, that whole world, the high school world of Buffy. What did you think of that stuff?
It was pretty much what I expected.
Sure.
I mean, I knew from the TV show that she had already said she was a vapid schoolgirl.
Sure.
And she was super vapid. She was very Valley girl. Her friends were super, like, kind of like, I thought Buffy, though, led the pack. Like, I thought she was going to end up, she almost starts like a Cordelia.
Yeah.
And she says, obviously, we're not supposed to, I keep bringing up the TV show, but we're not supposed to. But she says she was like a Cordelia at her old school. And she starts that way.
Right.
But she's very quickly, even before she becomes the Slayer with like the yellow coat, then they go, that's last year's
Kimberly takes
fashion.
it.
And Kimberly takes it and she's wearing it. And they almost like, and like they backstab her.
Yeah.
So it's like almost she's not as in control as she thought she was.
You're thinking that she's like Regina George from Mean Girls and she has her pack following her. But I think it's all about, they're all trying to one up each other.
Which I thought was
yeah.
kind of interesting because in most of those kind of TV shows and movies, you get the Regina George.
Yep.
And they follow the pecking order. And this, you're right, that there is that kind of like, I don't know, Valley Girl Game of Thrones going on where they are trying to become who's the leader.
I honestly think that's a little bit more accurate in terms of
for sure.
how it works.
No one immediately goes, I guess I'm just a lapdog.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be the big fish.
What about how, like, do you think this is on purpose? How so misogynistic the guys are?
Oh, for sure.
The fact that his best friend or one of his buddies, Buffy's boyfriend, his best friend like gropes Buffy at like at times and makes rude comments. And he's like, and her boyfriend's just like, well, get off my, one time he's like, get off my thing. I'm like, what?
Oh yeah. And he says it's ridiculous. Well, they're all, everything they say is ridiculous.
Yeah.
The bomb. Oh.
Do you think that's on purpose?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's both just exaggerated because they're kind of exaggerated, like Buffy and her clique. And then to show that like Pike is like it increases Pike's like what's the word I'm looking for?
How old is Pike?
I mean, Luke Perry's been playing a high schooler since
he's not. Like, he doesn't go to high school there.
He doesn't go, but maybe he's a dropout.
Okay.
Who knows, man? It's Luke Perry. He was playing a high schooler at 40. I would say, if anything, maybe he just graduated.
Right.
He doesn't want to go back to school. Obviously, him and David Arquette's character, they're just losers who get drunk, and I guess they work at a shop. Like a repair shop.
He works at a
car repair place.
Car repair. I'm getting out of here.
Who else am I going to get that's going to allow me to pay him so little?
Yeah, I know.
And he's clearly like, he starts out as like an idiot, even when he wakes up and what is David Arquette's character's name? Benny's floating. He's floating. He's got to be 3 or 4 stories up, floating in a store. Man, what are you on, man? No, go home, Benny. And it's like, he's an idiot. And then all of a sudden he gets in a car accident and he's like Casey Jones from the Ninja Turtles movie. He's just like ready to fight. He's with it. He's quipping one-liners. Like, was he reborn? Is he like a Slayer? Like, it didn't make sense. I like him. I like Pike a lot. And I like the way that Luke Perry plays him. And I almost wonder if that's how, because Joss Whedon says they kind of became friends and talked movies. If maybe Luke Perry was the only one kind of in on what the movie was.
Yeah, maybe.
Because he was, like we said, he was the only one delivering lines the Joss Whedon way. Like, he almost seemed like he belonged. But I did think, I don't know if you agree, his character really just kind of flips
in terms of just his, like, what do you mean? Like his character flips
in terms of who he is, how with it he is, I guess.
I'm well, yeah. When we first meet him, I think he's more just, I probably a little, but he also has that same shift maybe that Buffy has, where she's different, obviously, in the first act, and then she's like, "Oh, wait a minute, this is serious," and then she,
when you learn what the real world is,
maybe that's where that shift comes in, like when he slicks his hair back and he shows up at the gym, all that stuff
with his fancy leather jacket.
Yeah, I was like, "What's with the jacket, man? It's like an outdoor jacket. Take it off. You're inside now."
So that Buffy can wear it and be cool.
Yeah, I know. They want me on that whole setup in terms of like when they want her to come outside and she's like, they want me. They're going to come in. If they don't, they come in anyways. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, because the girl goes, I already invited them in.
Oh, right.
So it's too late. But I also don't get, like, So they just wait. They just wait for Buffy to go outside, and then they go inside and get all the kids.
Yeah, there were some decisions here in the movie that I shook my head where in terms of when Pike says he's gonna leave. And he's like, I'm going to take off. This is after one of the first nights where he's like, I'm just going to take off. And then she's chasing the one on the bike, right?
Yep.
And my notes like, so I guess Pike decided to stay and work on a bike at night. Like
wait, is Pike on? Pike is on his own bike.
He's just like working on a dirt bike as she drives by. And I'm going, so okay, I guess that happened. And so there's some things that just,
He lost his van.
He's wearing those dog tags. And I'm like, so he was in the service? He wasn't in the service?
His dad was in the service?
Yeah. What's going on here?
Well, the dog tags didn't really bother me as much as they bothered you.
When Lothos is playing the violin, I'm like, he's not playing that violin.
The violin made no sense because it's like when the music stops. What about when I don't understand that.
Yeah.
Like, was the music hypnotizing her? Because he doesn't play the music in the parade.
Like Merrick had some kind of premonition or something on his death.
All of a sudden.
I don't get. And then there was a part when Lothos was about to bite her. I don't know if you noticed this. She has a scar on her neck. Like she has a scar on her neck. And I'm like, is that from something else? Is that and I don't know if it was just maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's just I should have seen it. I don't know.
It's probably just a scar. Yeah, I would imagine.
Maybe he bit her and she bled and they cut it out. I have no idea. Maybe there was, who knows?
Wow. I don't know. I don't even know how you make vampires. They don't even explain it.
No, they don't.
If you get bit, do you just automatically turn or
they have,
do you have to specifically
with the fresh
make
graves, that whole thing when they're waiting for the grave but then that's the only time. That's the only thing.
New vampires.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, there's some head scratchers in the movie. And it's a short. That's the thing. It's an 86 minute movie. It's an 86 hour movie. It's an 86 minute movie. So you can't. It goes so fast where you can't really complain about it too much because the movie's over
until you do an episode about it on your TV show talking about movies. But yeah, I agree. It's a fun watch. It's quick. It's fun. It only kind of occurs to you when the movie ends that you don't have a setup of. The rules aren't there.
Yeah.
They're not well established.
Right. Let me get you some reviews. Destin Howe of the Washington Post says, quote, Buffy is amusing for a time, but its destiny is to die in a disappointing, long-winded conclusion. The second half feels stretched out and muddled as if screenwriter Joss Whedon drove a stake through his script. Now, I want to ask you this question. We can go back. We're 40 years removed from this film, right? Almost 40. 30 years. 30 years. We're 30 years removed.
30 something, yeah.
So obviously we get the notes where, Whedon walked off set because he's frustrated. It's clearly not his script. We know this. I just want to, do they know this? Do critics understand how movies are made sometimes? Do they get, you can criticize Joss Whedon on the script because it's written by Joss Whedon, but shouldn't you know that maybe they change things?
I mean, when you're trying to do a critic review, no, because you need that quote that you say 30 years later and you're making fun of it. So I don't think they care.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's not wrong. The second half is all muddled because that's where all our questions come in.
But let's not lay it at the feet of Joss Whedon because it's clearly been changed.
I would also say if you're a critic and you're watching a movie that's an hour and 26 minutes, you've got to realize the script wasn't an hour and 126 pages.
Right.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
It was clearly something got missed.
Mm-hmm. Marjorie Bumgarten from the Austin Chronicle said, quote, Buffy the Vampire Slayer is a fun movie, so much better than it has to be and so much better than you expect it to be. So she's a fan.
I had zero expectations going in. I mean, I would assume I'd have to have seen the trailer and been like, what am I expecting walking into this? I do agree that it's a very fun movie.
Yeah.
But it's not quite, it's not quite on the same level of Night of the Comet in terms of, I would say really just not caring about itself.
Yeah. Night of the Comet is so and again, but the same type of plot. The plot's really secondary to what we're watching on screen.
Right.
Yeah. It's more, Night of the Comet's making a comment, has a commentary on Valley Girls and that kind of those style,
right.
the people and people just kind of being oblivious to what's happening in the world and how and all the scientists are just, bad. Yeah.
Right.
So there was a lot of deeper things going on there. This film is more just basically about vampires and about a Valley girl who accepts her fate and changes who she is and tries to,
become a hero.
Yes. Yeah. And then my final one is David Nusser from Real Film Reviews says Buffy the Vampire Slayer benefits from the director's easygoing approach to Whedon's script. Whedon's screenplay and Swanson's affable turn as the somewhat one-note protagonist, which does ensure at the very least that the picture remains watchable from start to finish.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy, but she's good. So, I mean, that works. I mean, It's definitely easy and breezy, but I think, and again, this is coming from 30 years later and having Buffy the Vampire Slayer as a TV show and also, more grown-up writing from, say what you want about Joss Whedon as a person, but his writing is very good. He tells, deep, thoughtful stories with good dialogue. Yeah. And it's just like, but this is early Joss Whedon. So
you're going to have to make some sacrifices.
Right after that, he does Toy Story. So
yeah, don't feel too bad for him because he's going to become an Oscar nominated writer soon.
So it is easy and breezy, but you're kind of left wanting, I would say, deeper thematics, and I'd say kind of more witty dialogue.
Yeah, I mean, again, Mike and I both talked about checking out The Origin, which is the comic or the graphic novel based on the original script for this movie. I'd be curious to see just how that worked, and because I'm imagining all those lines are back in there.
My only thing about that is you can tell me that's the original script, but how am I supposed to know? Because he says it. Exactly. You just got to take his word for it. It's just kind of like kind of like with the Alien stuff when they're like what we did with the lead up with the 8 different versions of Alien 3 and like them making graphic novels about it or audio visual novels.
Yeah.
Like what's true? What is it really original or is it not?
What about Star Wars where Lucas was like he had all notes on all 9 chapters.
Oh, sure. The Journey of Wills and stuff like that. Yeah. And different versions.
So, again, what do
you always have to take his word for it. I had episode 1 written before I had the original. It's like, okay, I have to believe you because there's nothing else I can.
He could have had a sketched outline.
Exactly. Like those documentaries show his notepad where he has it written, but it's like, you could have written that yesterday. How am I supposed to know?
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, and you just have to take it for your word until it's proved otherwise.
Are you surprised that they greenlit a TV show based on this movie, 5 years later?
Well, it's a different production company. I'm pretty sure it's Warner Brothers Television.
It was just shown on Warner Brothers. I believe it was still Fox that actually made it.
No, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, he's hot though at this point. He did Toy
he can
Story.
Pitch whatever he wants. Okay.
He's an up and coming writer, so he probably was like, I want to revisit Buffy. And I mean, there was a lot of like Charmed came out after that, right? So there was
he started a whole bunch of stuff right after that.
I think it was probably just. When was Scream was 96? So yeah, so you already have I Know What You Did Last Summer, Scream. So Scream comes 96, right?
Right.
And then I'm pretty sure, let's just say I Know What You Did Last Summer was probably in production because that was 97. This comes out in 97. So this is probably just a confluence of events where you've got all these young stars that are up and coming and they've been in these movies, Can't Hardly Wait, I believe was 99.
So you think they were like, hey, we want something with, some kind of new teenage show.
I think
horror seems to be really driving now. Joss, what do you got?
He's like, I mean, he's nominated for Toy Story. He doesn't win. He's getting meetings all around. What do you got for us? So I think it just was this is what I want to do. And he, probably proved out. So
I want to do the Buffy the way I originally wanted to.
Yeah, probably.
Now that I have the power.
And now it's a high school drama / comedy / horror / action it's going to launch all these careers. Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah. I'm surprised you don't have a Roger Ebert review for me.
I don't. Well, what's funny is that I usually grab those reviews off of Wikipedia. Sure. And so when they're not there, I got to go find them. And, usually the Roger Ebert reviews are up top on the IMDb, but they weren't. I had to just dig. And I try to because there's IMDb, a lot of the critic reviews, just a ton of DVD review sites, and like really sites I've never heard of. Yeah, I'm trying to find. I mean, not that I'm there's not any credibility of these sites that I've never heard of before, but I try to find for the podcast. Washington Post, Austin Chronicle, stuff like San Francisco, stuff like that. Just so kind of like, oh, okay, like the bigger named ones.
Right.
I mean, maybe that's a little bit more biased on my part. I apologize, but I'm also trying to find. So I'm trying to find comments and quotes, but also I know if you're going to like it or not like the movie, but try to find something that's against it.
So I can react.
That's how I work. So like, would you recommend this to people? I got 2 questions.
Yes.
Who would you recommend this to? But also, would you recommend this to people who someone comes up to you and says, I love the TV show and they know about the movie, but they are wary to watch it? Do you say, no, you should watch it?
I mean, this is the first time I've seen it in full. I've only seen clips
But
before.
you're doing it for a podcast.
But I'm doing it but I'd always been interested.
Right.
And it's ironic. We just did Shadow the Vampire. We're doing Nosferatu, and now we're doing Buffy. It's a vampire themed week for us, which was not planned. I'm really happy I watched it because I was always curious, and it's really interesting to see. And if you tried to ask me for examples right now, I have no idea. But it's really interesting when you see like the early examples of things or the early versions of things that don't have anything to do with or aren't quite like how you remember the version that you like.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really interesting. I think it's fascinating, especially when it's done by the same writer and the creator. I think that that's really cool. And I think that I would recommend this to people that are fans of Buffy, just with the warning that, it's not Buffy. It's an early version. It's like seeing an early draft.
It's like a pilot.
Yeah. So I think, go watch it. Go see what it's like. See how different it is. See what's similar. I think that's really interesting. And I think if you really are truly a fan of Buffy, I think you would be very interested to see that. And the fact that even though it's really cheesy and kind of corny, and maybe some people say it's really bad, it's got some stuff that's fun. It's a fun watch, and it's a quick watch.
Do you think it's a movie of the decade?
100%. Like Valley Girls, like that's not really
late
today.
80s, early 90s.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, Regina George is a good example of like how you would update the character into like a mean girl kind of thing. But that's a very like stereotypical character, kind of like Bill and Ted are very, late 80s kind of characters, stereotypical high school characters. I would recommend this in terms of normal people or people that aren't necessarily fans of Buffy.
Normals.
Like whoever I recommended Night of the Comet to. I mean, it's a silly, vapid horror comedy that just kind of doesn't take itself too seriously. If you're looking for a fun watch, like if it's Halloween and you just want something dumb fun, or it's a really good, I would say, like if you're doing a movie night, like a double feature, do like Near Dark and this. Would be a fun, like two completely different versions of how you would take on vampires.
Yeah.
That's who I would recommend it for too.
Is it safe to say that this movie is probably what Kristy Swanson's best known for?
Yeah.
You think so?
I think so.
Okay. That's not necessarily a bad thing.
Just because it's like her name, like her character's name is like right up front and center. Right. Whereas the other stuff, like she's in a decent amount of stuff in the 80s and 90s, but it's, she's part of it.
Yeah. Then why is it forgotten? Because of the show?
The TV show. The fact that it was just kind of like, it came out and kind of like disappeared. It didn't reappear until, the TV show. Mm-hmm. And the TV show is just like, did you know there was a movie? There was a movie?
There's a summer movie too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think that kind of like, and the fact that it's so different, I think a lot of people are afraid or don't want to go back to it. And when it had the TV show originally came out, it was probably not as easy to find Buffy. Mm-hmm. Whereas nowadays you can find it on streamers or it's available to rent. I know it used to be available to just watch for free, but they took it away probably because we were going to do an episode on it and they had to make it difficult for us. But I think that nowadays, if Buffy had come out now, be like, it's based on a movie, it would be a lot easier to go back and watch that movie than in 1997. You have to hope your local like video store, Blockbuster, or Tommy K's where I was. It's like hope that they had it to rent. Mm-hmm. Whereas like now you could stream it. So I think that kind of hurt it. Whereas that might have helped it if it came out nowadays.
Right.
What do you think?
Why is it forgotten? Because it's 30 years old, and I think it's of the time. It's not. I mean, because it's not a movie that. If somebody suggested, hey, what should I watch that you've watched growing up? No one's this isn't the first movie off the tip of their tongue. I think only because of the show that this film is kind of still remains in people's minds. I think if there was no show, this movie would just disappear. And
even though it was like a Joss Whedon film?
Maybe. I don't know. But
obviously now it's like.
Right. But let's just say, I think. Maybe, but I think this is only in the memory of a lot of people because of the TV show and the success of the show. I think, like I said, if the show's not there, I don't think we're talking about this film at all. I think people are just kind of like
shrugging it off and forgetting about it.
Yeah, exactly. And Joss Whedon, because he would have done other stuff. He never would have done the show. You know what I mean? So
right.
Maybe he would have redone it as a movie. I don't know. Maybe it comes back as a remake as a film if there's no show. Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, they're talking about the remakes now.
They've been talking about remakes for 15 years.
Well, they wanted to do a movie. The notes talk about how they wanted to do a movie, and then it's going to be a TV show.
Right.
Where they just completely remade it. And then after fan backlash, they were like, all right, we'll make it a sequel series.
Right.
And then that kind of petered out too.
And then all the stuff happened with obviously the personal stuff with Whedon, everyone coming out against him and all the stuff that he had done being revealed. And then Sarah Michelle Gellar was so like, because in the beginning, I think they asked her, like, do you want it? She's like, doing it without him is ridiculous. But now that, that there's been some time and now that, he's been kind of revealed,
right?
And she's softened on that. And she's like, no, I think it'd be great. I think, so I think it'll eventually in some fashion come back, whether it is successful or not. I don't know.
No studio sits on a franchise forever.
Well, they're going to know it's a proven IP is going to get stronger consideration than something that's brand new.
Right.
So it'll come back in some form, but I don't know how and in what way, I don't think they're going to know none of the, I can see them coming back and then maybe you see the older characters, not characters, but the older actors popping in for an episode or something. Oh my God. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
They're there, but they're not, I don't see them. Like, I don't think you're going to see adult Willow and adult Buffy and stuff like that. I've even read the comics, so they could all be dead for all I know. So I don't even know where they're going with that. But yeah, so, I like I said, I think that's why it's forgotten. I do think people should go back and watch it if you can find it. I think it's worth it. It's short, It's quick. Like Mike says, you could do a double feature and it's fun. So why not? Where can they find us?
You can find us at ForgottenCinemaPodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts. You're listening to us, watching us, shouting at the screen at us. Who knows? Cursing our names. Why don't you go ahead and write a review, comment. That's not cool. Calm down. Write a review, comment, let us know what's your favorite vampire movie, what's your favorite episode of Buffy, do you like this movie, who likes this movie more than the TV show? I think that'd be interesting.
Nobody. Well, wait a minute, up until seasons 5 or 6, let's up
until Past Glory, once, not the UPN, we're not counting the UPN years.
There's some good episodes there, but those last 2 seasons are
the musical
tough.
episodes of UPN year.
Well, what was one of the seasons? Like there's always a monologue. Someone always has a monologue, right? Like, just let us know. Drop a comment while you're there. Like, rate, subscribe, all that. If you want to support the show further, we have a merch store and we have a Patreon, exclusive episodes, early access, Discord access, all that fun stuff. And join us next week as we're going to be doing the 2007 comedy romance film Waitress, starring Kerry Russell, Nathan Fillion, Jeremy Sisto, Andy Griffith, all those fun people. It's
now a popular Broadway play.
Yes, but you have not seen Waitress, right?
No, but I do have like 2 songs from the Broadway musical, which I've also never seen on my Spotify that I like.
Well, I don't know if the songs are in the movie. I don't think they are.
Have you never seen the movie either?
Oh, no, I love the movie.
Okay.
Yeah, no, the movie's fantastic. Adrian Shelley's in it, written and directed by Adrian Shelley, who obviously passed away very badly and very much too soon. But this is a great film. I love this film. So if you don't like it, you have no heart.
Yeah.
All right, that's next week, Waitress. Until then, I'm Mike Field.
I'm Mike Butler.
And this has been Forgotten Cinema.
Hey guys, thanks for watching the episode. We hope you enjoyed it. If you want to look up more of what we've done, we've got our now showing episode for Captain America Brave New World just came out. That should be the link right above me right here.
And right above me is probably our lead up episode for Prometheus. We are covering all the Alien franchise film leading up to Alien Romulus, if you catch why we're calling it lead up. And that is also our latest one is Prometheus. So check that out. That's all I got. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Take care, everyone.